Tribune.
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 Tribune de l'ULB.
Un point de vue.
Un débat.
Good afternoon. I'm Bruno Van Puttelsberg, the Dean of Solvay Brussels School, ULB. I'm very glad today to have two excellent keynote speakers, Dominique Leroy from Proximus, and our vice-rector, and as well pretty much involved in the faculty, Philippe Ampli. Before I give the word to Philippe Ampli for a few words on what does mean digital, the digital economy for academia, I'd like to introduce a little bit Dominique Leroy. She's graduated from Solvay, at that time it was called still École de Commerce Solvay, I believe. Not yet Solvay Business School, in 1987, which is the year I entered university, so now... Yeah. Which I entered the faculty. She worked for, I'm going fast, for Unilever Belgium. Now she's the CEO of Proximus. And she will soon join the board of Deleuze and Lotus Bakery. And last but not least, when she has some spare time, she is chairing the International Advisory Board of the Solvay Brussels School of Economics and Management. And I thank you again for your time. We had the board last Friday, and it's working very well. Before we start to introduce you to a poll, we have decided to organize. It's a very small poll. I don't know if you watch television, but tonight, what do we have on Belgian TV? The Voice. So we don't have The Voice here, but we have a poll which is very similar. You send an SMS, so you look at the phone number with your mobile phone, you send an SMS where you choose just one reply, Solvay BVS 1 or Solvay BVS 2, and it's about your perception of the digital economy, and whether do you think of the advent of a more digital economy as an opportunity or a threat in Belgium's economy. You have the definition of an opportunity and of a threat. Please vote during Philippe Ampli's speech, your own personal feeling, and then we will assess it before giving the word to Dominique Leroy. Now about Philippe Ampli, he's a colleague of us for many years, polytechnician. He's expert in digital and communication technologies, as well vice rector of the University for Academic Affairs, and supervise the programs at Solvay. So, Philippe, thank you very much for being here as well, and the floor is yours.
Thank you. I have a mic. So, hello everybody. As Bruno says, I'm Philippe Ampli, I'm a physicist, and so I'm not really a specialist in digital economy, but I think that during these last years I developed some competence in digital university, and I'd like to speak about this, and I just give the mission to Dominique to make the parallel with digital economy if it's possible. So I'd like to speak about digital university. What does that mean, digital university? If you are looking to the model for university, research universities as we have in Europe, if we speak about digital university, I speak about digital teaching and digital research. I say a few words about these two topics because they are the two main missions of a university like ULB. So a few words about digital teaching. Generally speaking, when we speak about digital teaching, we speak about e-learning, distant learning, or digital resources for teaching. So some colleagues that observe the rapid evolution of digital teaching toward more electronic-based courses or more electronic shared resources, they consider it constitute a real threat for the way they teach, and the goal teaching is the objective of teaching at the university. But it's not my perception. So why? Because e-learning is not new. You probably know that 20 years ago, ULB launched its first LMS platform, Learning Management System platform, in order to ask or to offer the professor the opportunity to launch their electronic resources on the platform with an access for all the students that want to access this platform. So 20 years ago, it already started. It's also a natural evolution of pedagogical methods to introduce new technologies in teaching. Some decades ago, we introduced lecture notes, printed lecture notes. We also introduced PowerPoint slides show. And at any stage, people always fear that introducing this and giving this resource to students will make the students leave the classroom. But we observe that even if you don't give this to the students, they leave the classroom. So nothing catastrophic, nothing really new with giving them more resources. Also, digital teaching offers professors a unique opportunity to reattract their students in their classroom. And how do they do this? They do this by what we call flipping the classroom. What does it mean, flipping a classroom? It means that, traditionally speaking, at the university, the theory was given in the classroom, like we do today. It was a simple transmission, not really sexy, but it was done like this since centuries. Okay, theory in the classroom, and then home, student was trying to understand what the professor has given in the classroom. We now make the opposite. With e-learning, we ask the student to study the theory home before coming in the classroom. And then in the classroom, they interact with the professor in order to understand how to apply the theory, how to introduce study cases in order to make concrete what they learn by themselves home. And in this stage, the competence of the professor are much more used in the classroom than they were before. It's quite easy to read a text. It's not easy to interact with hundreds of students asking sometimes very clever and delicate questions about how to use what is in the textbook. So this flipping the classroom is a way to reattract the students in the classroom and to permit professors to really use their competence in teaching. Last point about this electronic teaching, it's about MOOC. I don't know if somebody does know about MOOC here in the classroom. What's MOOC? M-O-O-C. So MOOC is an acronym for Massive Online Open Courses. It means open courses that are launched on the web and free of access to anybody connected in the world. So you know that developing MOOCs is now a tendency of all universities. It's in the period where we are also giving access to our research resources, to the open access to research results. And giving access to MOOC is a way university give us access to their courses and not only their research results. So it's a way to diffuse knowledge and a way to participate to give all person interested in the world or even here access to university knowledge. So ULB started MOOC initiative this year, and you probably know, for those who follow the university actualities, that our first MOOC is running at the moment. It's a MOOC about English speaking, spice up your English, and just to give you an idea, the number of people enrolled in this MOOC is larger than the number of students we have enrolled yearly at university at the moment. So we have 27,000 students enrolled in our MOOC. Okay, when I speak about MOOC, I come naturally to digital research. I say a few words about digital research. So the first digital research that we do is about digital teaching. Why? Because when you have an e-learning process, you have access to everything. You have 27,000 students, but you know exactly what they do with each of your research put on the platform. You know when they start to listen to the video or to look to the video. You know when they stop listening to the multimedia. You know when they drop out. You know when they come back. You know exactly what they do with all the resources. So a professor, just looking to this data that's accumulated on the platform, have a feedback. The professor has a feedback with 27,000 students. So it's a 1 year feedback, much more efficient than he can have in all his career, traditionally speaking, at the university. So digital teaching is a way to give rise to digital research on teaching, and this is really a new topic in the research field at the university. And we develop a lot of activities in order to help our professor to do this, together with 2 partners in the world, that are University of Genève and University of Montreal. Last but not least, digital resources are, of course, developed in open access more and more by the university. And let's say that digital results of research at the university in open access is a similar tendency that we have digital courses like MOOCs really open to all the community in the world. So you know that now that difficulty will be for the person who look to this resource to filter the resource they really need. They have much more access to a lot of resources in the world. The difficulty now is to know what is really interesting for them and for their objectives. And so I think that one step that university will have to do in the future is helping the students to filter what is interesting for them in the huge amount of data they have access to. And so data mining and quantitative research is something that will develop. And I think that therefore the initiative of Bruno developing a network of business and economic school on quantitative method was a really good idea. So in conclusion, in order to leave the floor to Dominique, digital era is something very exciting, I think, for the university. I don't see any major threat in this evolution. I see there an opportunity. I think that for the professor who want it, digital university is a way for them to close the loop, because they just use their competence of research on their teaching, so they improve teaching by their research competence. ULB is, of course, considering this as a major priority. We support all the professors who want to do this, and we'll continue to do this during the next years. It's considered by the rector team at the moment as a main objective of our group. So thank you for your attention. I will give the floor to Dominique with a mission to make the parallel with digital economy, and we'll speak about this maybe in a few minutes.
Thank you. So thank you very much for this introduction. To be honest, the first slide I have is about how do you define digital economy. And I think digital or MOOCs is not on there, but it's also a part of digital economy. And digital economy encompasses a lot of stuff. If you talk about e-commerce, if you talk about e-payment, mobile, massive open courses, if you talk about internet, if you talk about digital TV, everything can be said as digital economy. Of course, Alex told me that the answer will only be at the end, but you will see that my presentation is very much stated that digital is an opportunity and not a threat. So I hope you will have some answers in that sense, because otherwise we can have a long debate afterwards. So you have an answer, but you don't want to tell it. Yes. Okay. So what is the answer?
Thank you. That was unexpected. Well, it's an opportunity for 85.71% of the people here.
Okay. So thank you very much. So you put me at ease, so it's very good. So I will flip through a first set of slides just to let you refresh some of the figures we have in Belgium about the use of digital. And I will flip through because there is a lot of numbers, but I think it's important that we understand how telecom and how digital economy is part of our life. And I've put telco because everything you do on internet is not possible without telco. Sometimes we tend to forget it. We are very much entitled to the Google and the Facebook and things like that. Those applications, those companies cannot exist without the connectivity, without the telecom support that is there. So it's a new ecosystem. It's not that the one is against the other. Then we need to understand how to partner and how to build a new ecosystem, which is this whole digital economy. And that's why I put that as a title. So internet in Belgium, I mean, these are few figures, you know them. 80% of the Belgian population has internet, so it means that still 20% of the people don't have internet at home, so still an opportunity there to grow. Mobile revolution, that's un clin d'œil, c'est la place Saint-Pierre. I thought at the ULB it was nice to take this picture. You have la place Saint-Pierre, you have Place Saint-Pierre, I think in 2009, something like that. And the other one is Place Saint-Pierre in 2013. So you see the difference in 4-year times, and it's not that long ago, it's 5 years ago. You had nobody using smartphone, and 2 years ago there is only lights there in the people, everybody is using smartphone. I could have taken another picture there, Saint-Pierre, but I thought it was funny. Mobile is the new normal. More and more the world is going mobile. I was, end of last year at Davos, the whole theme there was about the world is going mobile. So it's not anymore about fixed internet, it's everything about having access to internet everywhere you are. You want to have your access to your content and your home and your work, when you are on the go, when you are abroad. So it's this nomadism that's seamless interaction between all the networks that will really become the world of tomorrow. I could do a test. Who in this room is checking first the smartphone before saying hello to your partner or your friends? 77% of the people do that, so don't be afraid. So 77% of the people, no, that's not so. I mean, where is it? What do you say? What's the figures? 50% of the people, the first thing they do is checking their smartphone when they wake up. They sleep with the smartphone next to it, and the first thing they do, they look at the smartphone. So you say here, if people leave home without their smartphone, 77% of the people go back home. Don't know about you, can you live a day without a smartphone? There are also a lot of survey somewhere done this. What would you prefer, to have no sex or have no access to internet? I can tell you a lot of people said that they would prefer to have no sex than no access to internet. So these are amazing figures. So that's how important internet has become part of our daily life. Okay. Also screens. I mean, the screens we are using, it's not anymore only the PC, it's not anymore the smartphone, it's not only the tablet, the TV. All the screens are more and more screens that give us access to the world of the internet or the world of content. This is, I don't know if you have been raised like that, this is typically family. Tomorrow everybody is on a screen and everybody is doing something different. So media consumptions is not anymore, or is becoming less and less a family or a group consumption, but is becoming more and more an individual choice. So we as operators need to adapt to that, to provide people access, for instance, to video on demand, to media, on all the devices and in very different formats that are all adapted to the different kind of customers we have. 90% of media consumption is done on screen. Only 10% is done on paper. So I think MOOCs is very important. And also put your courses on internet, not in syllabus. When I was at university, everything was on paper. Il y avait le cercle Solvay qui imprimait les syllabus. There was all printing the syllabus. There was no courses which was on internet. Today everything is there. And there are very little paper. Same is true for media. I mean, big question mark about the future of some of the media that are not going towards the internet. Social media. I don't know if you know the people there, Gangnam Style. 2 billion views on YouTube. 2 billion. Katy Perry, 60 million followers. The Pharrell Williams, the Happy song, is one of the most tweeted songs in the world. So the thing is that if you look in Belgium, 52% of the people are active on social media. But social media has no border. So it means that the world is not anymore Belgium or is not anymore Europe. The playground for everybody now is becoming the world. So it completely changed the way you do business. It changed the way you communicate. It's changing the way you bring value. The risk of that is the use of these social media for different purposes. If you look at IS, things like that, they also use social media to recruit young people. So that's the threat, probably, of these type of worldwide social media stuff. Here the same, if you look at the number of people, you know all these, the WhatsApp, Twitter, Facebook, things like that. What's amazing for me is the number of people that are using that daily. I mean, almost 900 million users daily of Facebook in the world. 300 hours of video are downloaded every minute on YouTube. Can you imagine the content that is on there? Can you also imagine the data center that you need to run this type of business? It's massive. It's really impressive. More and more people are using WhatsApp to phone, to message. What's the future of telecommunication company in this new world? If you can do everything through internet, you don't need all the rest anymore. Yeah, when you buy online, I mean, very little Belgian company there. I mean, there is now the new Digital Belgium agenda that has been announced yesterday by Minister De Croo. He wants to revamp and reboost e-commerce in Belgium. The first thing he needs to do, he said, we need to have people being able to work at night. Because why is e-commerce so much gone outside of Belgium? More than 1,000 jobs have not been created in Belgium, but have been created, for instance, in the Netherlands, because we were not allowed to work in the evening to do the packing and to be able to answer the customer demand that it was saying, if I order before 4 o'clock, I want to be delivered the same day. Not possible in Belgium because we couldn't work after 8 o'clock in this sector. That's one example. So that's why today, unfortunately, you don't have a lot of Belgian companies that are big e-commerce sites. I think the first one on the list is Colruyt, and I think the second one is Proximus. Yeah, good. So this is another one. This is some figures on e-commerce. It's still a very small part of the internet economy in Belgium. I mean, today internet economy is around 3.5% of GDP. We think it will grow to 5%, but e-commerce is only 25% of it. It's a very small amount. If you look at the Netherlands, it's much, much bigger. This is amazing. I mean, this is, if you look at this new economy, you really see a few changes, massive changes in some industry. If you start, is that a point? Oops, no, that's not a pointer. That's a pointer. If you start here, if you look at the music industry, I mean, the music industry has been completely disrupted, and everybody now is buying. Sometimes not buying. Sometimes you go on YouTube and you download stuff. Some people are buying it through Deezer, Spotify, those type of stuff. And what do you see? Concerts are hype again. That's the only way artists can make money. They give concerts. Look at the price of Rock Vector. It's increasing every year by 20%. And it's completely booked after 1 day of the Rock Vector opening of the sales. So amazing new element. If you look at this one, where do you meet your partner? In a TD or in a nightclub? Many people meet their partner on Tinder. That's the way you connect with people. Amazing. You connect through a social media, through this thing. I mean, you know, Uber, a lot of fight against Uber. The question is, can you stop them? I mean, Uber is a disruption which is not so much a digital disruption, it's a business model disruption. What they have brought is a new platform. The same is true for Airbnb. They are huge in the hotel sector, but they don't have any hotel room, they don't have any apartment, they have nothing. The only thing they have is a platform where people post what they can rent or what they can offer, and they bring people in contact. The offer and the demand, how do you meet those? Uber the same, the biggest taxi company in the world, not owning any taxi. They don't own any taxi. The only thing they own is a platform where they put people in contact. But they spend a lot of time in shaping this platform in a way which is very easy to use. So the digital economy can be also very disruptive just because people think different business model. That's something we should teach in the business schools. How can you think different business models? As I am in a university, I think that's a very relevant question. You learn how to deal with new products, you learn how to deal with IT. Do you learn how to create new business models? If you go to Silicon Valley, those people, the only thing they look at is how can I disrupt industry? That's their purpose. They want to conquer the world and they want to disrupt industry. That's the only thing they want to do. You should go there. There are vibes. It's amazing. All young people. When you are 30, you are old. I mean, if they haven't created their startup and defined a new model at 30, they normally are not starting again. You could have failed 2-3 times when you are 30, and very often there, if you have failed twice, the third time you start an idea, you get much easier funds, which is completely opposite to Europe. Because there, the venture capital, they say you have tried twice, you have learned a lot because you have failed. If you start a third time, probably you will succeed this time, so you will get more money. Amazing different way of thinking. In Europe, we are always thinking at the risk, at the failure. In the US, they are always looking at opportunities, disrupting, conquering the world. And if they fail, it's not important, they learn from it and they start again. Very different way of doing business. We should learn from that. Yeah, then comes to threat and opportunity. These are a few downsides of it. I mean, I've already talked about terrorism. This is one. You can also have hacking. I forgot Lawrence. What's her name? Lawrence. Jennifer Lawrence. Okay, that's it. You know, I'm too old for all these nice girls. Jennifer Lawrence for the Hunger Games. She has been hacked in the high cloud where all these pictures of a nude lady have been hacked. You certainly have read there. That's, of course, hacking. The second one is Sunny, this famous film about North Korea, which has been where the whole Sunny stuff has been hacked because there was a lot of issue with this film. Facebook, everything you put on Facebook is public, and almost everything you put on Facebook is Facebook ownership. Think of that. We are giving, and I've done that myself, we are going to schools, 5th and 6th primary schools to students, and we teach them how to handle safe internet. We teach them that everything you put on Facebook is public. So never put on Facebook something that you wouldn't like your grandma to see, for instance. So the same is true for you. I mean, so that's everything about cybersecurity. That's everything about data privacy. We still need to do a lot of progress there. First, what we need to do is create awareness. If you look recently at Le Soir, or if you look at all this media company that has been hacked by people of 15 and 17 years old, guys, it's just they were not aware of the risk. They had just had server and routers that were not protected. This should not happen. I mean, this is something, when you leave your house for holiday, you close the door and you put the alarm on. Why don't you do the same when it is about your cybersecurity? All your information is there, all your pictures are there, your film is there, your data is there. Lock them. Have a good password. Have good antivirus. Make sure that in your company you have servers that are protected, that you have encryption. It's basic stuff. The issue is that people don't yet understand it and are not yet aware enough of it. If you give people access to social media in your company, be aware that through that, a lot of people can get access through your intranet. And if they get access to your intranet, they get access to your data. So if you use social media, make sure you don't use it on a device where the device has access to the intranet of your company. Basic stuff, but people don't know them. It's really amazing. We have created with Proximus, we were the founder of the Cybersecurity Coalition, which was Proximus, so their business school was part of it, FEB was part of it, CERT is part of it, just for 3 purposes. Raise awareness about security, make sure that you can educate people on some basic stuff, and the last one is about sharing. Sharing, if you have a hacking here and you have a hacking there, share it so that you can protect yourself against it. Basic stuff, but we don't learn from it. New ecosystem, disruption. The world is going to be disrupted. I don't think there will be any industry that will not be disrupted. We started with music. It happens with media today, films, with the Netflix of this world. And I'm not even talking about popcorn, which is completely illegal. And illegal stuff on the net, people find it normal. Also my kids, I sometimes have fight with them because they don't pay Spotify or Deezer, they just download music from YouTube, which is posted illegally. You don't go in a very dark street at the end of Brussels and buy a very nice jewel or handbag at half of the price and you are proud of it. You don't do that in the physical world. Why do you do that in the digital world? New world, new way of working, but still the same rules. We are doing on the digital world things that we would never do in the physical world. I was talking about locking the door, same is true in digital world. I'm talking about going in a dark shop, same is true on the digital world. We are not yet understanding this new ecosystem. The same is true for our regulator. Regulation, I always say, very often I say in the US, in the regulation makes that everything which is not forbidden is possible. So in that sense, US is very much into innovation, because what is not forbidden, you can test it, and then the US government or the regulator will regulate the practices. In Europe, we do the opposite. In Europe, we have everything which is not authorized is forbidden. But if you start like that, you never have innovation, because by definition, innovation has not been foreseen in the law. So all our regulatory framework needs to be readapted to leave some more room for this new ecosystem, for this innovation, and making sure that we can regulate it much faster than we do today. Today we are lacking behind in Europe because we don't let innovation go through. And therefore, we are thinking, if you look at, I have a slide later on the importance of the digital world in Europe, and you will be amazed how small we are versus the world. Employment. Is the digital economy going to increase employment or decrease employment? It's a tough question. I think the digital economy is like the Industrial Revolution. We are today at the eve of the digital revolution. So there will be a lot of jobs created by the digital economy. But these jobs will probably not be the same one that were the jobs before. So you will have to go through a transition about people, someone that is not able to do some basic programming, code programming, tomorrow will have issue to find a job. Someone that has no basic analytical skills to analyze some data will have difficulty to find a job. We are screaming for people having quantitative knowledge, having data security knowledge, having IT knowledge, having engineering knowledge. We don't form enough people in all countries to cope with the demand. Major issue. People are studying social skills. It's very nice, but to be honest, tomorrow we will just need more engineers. Not so much social people. We will need some, of course, but most of them will not have jobs. So we need to think that also for our kids. Mathematics will probably be one of the jobs which will be most demanded, because we will need people that can do big data. Where today, if you say, I'm studying mathematics, people say, are you studying mathematics? You want to become a teacher, whatsoever? Mathematics tomorrow will be one of the key jobs. So that's the whole thing about the digital economy. You cannot stop it, but you need to think about it and to reflect for you, for your company, for your kids, how can I adapt to it? I'm much too long. So this is indeed how the digital economy can be positive for enterprises. Almost 100% of the enterprise have access to internet, and really all this new economy, this new digital thinking is really helping enterprise to become more efficient. And if you are not embracing this, I think you will be soon out of business, because your competitors will be much more efficient than you are. Smart is the new green. A lot of hype, big data, Internet of Things, cloud. I think it's more than a hype. If you see here, the Internet of Things, it's a buzzword. What is Internet of Things? It's making that every single thing in the world will become connected. Your fridge will become connected, your watch will become connected, your car will become connected. Even cow are connected. You know why cows are connected? Because if they have to, how do we say that in English? I mean, if they have to put a veal in the world, I don't know how you say that. In the past, a baby, a veal, no, I don't know, a small cow. In the past, the farmer needed to go up a few times at night. Today, you put a sensor on the cow, and because of this sensor, half an hour because the cow needs to deliver, I mean, the farmer will be waken up. What a comfort for this guy. I mean, he can sleep. Huh? So small stuff, even in the agricultural industry, are really enhancing life of people. Smart grids, electricity, we talked about blackout. If we would be able to align better demand and offer of electricity, we would probably avoid a blackout. You can do that through the sensor and the Internet of Things technology. You can make sure that private consumption is happening at the moment where you have not a peak of consumption of electricity. You put then your washing machines and all the stuff at the moment where you don't have a lot of consumption. Connected cars. Tomorrow you will have, all the cars will be connected. I think most of the cars today have a button, SOS button whatsoever. When you have something, it's a connected car. Tomorrow you will have self-driving cars. You will need 5G before you can have self-driving car, because to be honest, if you do a self-driving car with a 4G network, you need sometimes before the car can stop. If you have 5G, the car will stop immediately. So I would recommend to wait a little bit before you buy your self-driving car in Belgium. Health is the same. I mean, more and more health will be preventive, will be through diagnosis system, and will be less curative, which is great because it means that we will be able to help people differently. Big data is a hype, cloud is a hype. I go a bit faster because smart city, connected city, how can you solve mobility issues? How can you solve parking issue? How can you solve marketing issue? Targeted advertising is a big theme as well. New ways of working, people will not go to the work, they will work from home, they will have connections, all the application and the files will be in the cloud, people will be able to work from home, will be able to work through video conference. These are all stuff that are already there today, so that's not rocket science. A few figures now, quickly, about a study that we have asked all telecom operators of Belgium together, so the 5 of us, we were still 5 at that time, the 5 of us, and a few figures which are, I think, interesting to see in this context. Every euro a telecom industry spends in Belgium generates 3 euro GDP. And of those 3 euro, 1.5 euro goes back to the States in fiscal or social revenue. Proximus, we have invested last year 994 million euro in our infrastructure. So, I mean, we are investing every year now around 900 to 1 billion euro every year. Amazing amount of money. Just to give you access to internet, mobile and fixed internet. Amazing amount of money. 1 billion euro. We are the biggest investor in the country ever. I mean, even the trains or the electricity, people don't invest that much. That's just because the consumption of mobile data is doubling every year. Every year you consume twice more data on your mobile phone. On your fixed line, every 2 years, you double the amount of data you consume. So it's really going exponentially. And so we need to follow with huge investments to make sure that you can access to what you want. And the biggest driver is video consumption. And today video is the hype. Facebook is launching a lot of video. Twitter is having now video. Netflix is video. YouTube is video. So more and more people consume video, which puts a lot of challenge on people like us to find the money to invest. On top of it, you don't want to pay for it because you want internet for free. I can tell you it costs billions to build internet, so it's not an easy equation. So in that sense, it's my work, but it's not easy every day. This is the situation in Belgium. Amazing. I mean, Europe had a target, Digital Europe had a target to have at least 50%, let's say 100% of the people by 2015 having high-speed internet. And high-speed internet was defined as 30 megs per second. You see that we are not at the target. The target, Europe average, is around a bit lower than 70, 68. Belgium is amazingly good, 98.3%. We are the best of Europe. I think the next one is Malta or something like that. Didn't even know what MT was. So we are the best in all of Europe. So if you are complaining about internet in Belgium, just realize that you are really happy people. We have the best fixed internet in all of Europe. And if you complain about the price, for that speed, if you compare the price of that speed of internet to other countries, I can tell you, you get it cheap. This is France. Not even 50%. If you live in Paris, you're a lucky guy, you have good internet. But if you live outside of cities in France, you have really crappy internet. 1-2 megs, maximum, ADSL connection. You can't even watch a movie on it. This is Europe, Italy. Look at that. 20% people that have 30 megs, and 30 megs is the hygienic speed. We are building network now to go to 100 megs, at least. And for business, we are building speed of 1 gig, 1,000 times more. So just reflect on that, because people don't know that enough. If you look at 4G, we are a bit behind. That's a lot because of regulation. I can tell you we had to fight hard to be able to develop 4G in Brussels. We could start beginning of 2014. This is the figures 2013. We got the approval to start 4G, and still it's tricky because we are using norms which are 50% more stringent than the norm of OMS, whereby we need to put much more tower, and I can tell you to get a permit to put a tower, it very often lasts 1 year to 1.5 years, if you are able to build it. And I can tell you, a tower is not a negative stuff. It brings the internet, the mobile internet, like a parapluie. And so there is, if you don't have a tower and your GSM is your smartphone is really heating up, that's not good. So it's better to have towers than to have your smartphone heating. We are now at 85%, we'll be at the end of this year at 100%. So we are catching up there, but this is an issue that we were a bit lacking behind because of regulation. If you look at Europe, you're claiming it's too expensive. Look at that. Mobile, 36 euro you had to pay in 2009. Today you pay on average 20, but you get a value which in the price of 2009 is almost worth 140 euro, because we give you much more data, much more voice, much more SMS. Because you want it, you need it, but to get there we had to invest a lot of money in 3G, in 4G. Why did Telenet buy Base? Because Base made negative cash flow for 2 years, because they couldn't cope with the price reduction we had on mobile and with the heavy investment they had to do. So they were almost bankrupt. So KPN said, I don't want this company. And Telenet was able then to buy this company. These are the consequences of some regulation whereby prices have gone down, which is fine for everybody. But if you then need to invest millions in network, the whole financial equation becomes tricky. Same is true for fixed. I mean, a bit less. I mean, it has decreased, but we have given much more speed, much more data. Also on pricing, this is the inflation. 17% increase of inflation over the last 7 years or 8 years. Telecom is probably the only one that decreased by 7%. And it's only 3% of the Belgian spendings. A lot of fuss around telecom, but not so much in terms of spending. This is for me the most amazing chance, and I was alluding to it in the beginning of the speech. This is the value generated by what we call the digital economy. What is the digital economy? It's the device manufacturer, it's the infrastructure manufacturer, it's the telecom or cable operators, it's the broadcaster, so the RTBF, RTL, and it's also the OTT, the Google, Facebook, and things like that. So it's this whole new economy set, from the producer of infrastructure to the telecom operator, to the content producers, to the Google. This economy, the value of this economy has grown by 40% over the last 9 years. If you see, it has grown 57% in Asia. It has grown 56% in North America. It has decreased by 60% in Europe. And if you see how much Europe represents in the total, it's appalling. If you look, today, a few weeks ago or last week, Nokia and Alcatel-Lucent went together to survive. We don't have any infrastructure manufacturer in Europe anymore. I think they are not reported because it's Arthur Lidl that did the study, and probably they have tried to find, but they probably didn't have them. I mean, there are a lot of telecom manufacturers in Africa, MTM and all these others, but I don't have them here, so I'm sorry for that. But Europe is declining, and it's a lot to do with the regulation in Europe. Regulation in Europe has been very much against innovation, against investments, and consumer-led. And it's fine, I mean, I have no problem with that, but the consequences is that we are not developing any industry. If you look at OTT, as we call them, the GAFA, Google, Amazon, Facebook, Apple, they are all American. If you see the new one coming, it's Alibaba and it's a few others from Asia, none from Europe. If you look at device manufacturer, there are none in Europe. You have Microsoft, and Nokia has been bought by Microsoft, US. You have Apple, US. You have Huawei, you have Samsung, you have Xiaomi, all Asia. None is European. We have lost completely this industry. We will probably lose the infrastructure industry. Ericsson and Nokia, Alcatel-Lucent are trying to survive. I'm not sure they will survive that long. I mean, you still have some telco because it's very local. We haven't seen yet Google putting cables in the ground. They are now putting balloons in the air. You know the project Loon? Google is providing internet to the world by putting balloons in the air and making sure that you can get access to internet even if you are in a very, very remote area in Africa or in the Amazonian woods. Amazing stuff. When they started like that, I asked my engineers, is that ever possible that they get internet with balloons? And my engineer said, no, this is just crazy ideas. We were, last month, we had the chance to go with the management committee to Silicon Valley, and we had the chance to enter Google X. And we saw the guy that were developing the balloons, the project Loon. I can tell you, they are real. They are real balloons, and that is probably going to work. So it's really amazing. They will put thousands of balloons in the air. They will just fly twice the level, 20 kilometers above the Earth. Planes are 10, they will be 20. They have a small stuff where they have batteries working with solar lights. With those batteries, they have a balloon in a balloon, so they can pump air or not, and therefore the balloons goes up and down. Google has worked like crazy, big data, that's Google, like crazy to analyze all the stratospheric current, air current. They used all the data from the last 30 years from physicians, and they are now gathering a lot of data themselves. By using that, they are able to send balloons in the air, and after a few years, they are able to recuperate the balloons in an area of 500 meters, just knowing where the balloons are, and amazing stuff. So these are the kind of things that people in the Silicon Valley, with of course a lot of money, Google is a very, very rich company, it's more than the whole of Belgium. So they are developing this type of stuff. Frightening. I mean, amazing, but frightening as well. I mean, where will our industry be in those years? These are the trends. We just need to wake up. So this is what I said. I mean, issue about investment versus what you get from it. A lot of changes in the industry. The whole American GAFA, which are conquering the world, and the regulatory framework that is really lacking behind, that is still working in time of framework, which are very, very different framework than what we need in an industry that is changing every day. If you ask me to do a long-term plan, I do a plan of 3 years. I try to have a vision of 5 to 10 years. I cannot do a plan for more than 3 years. Impossible in our industry. You just don't know what will happen. We think linear. I mean, if you go to Singularity University in the US, I mean, we think linear. The human being is made to think linear. The world of digital and the world of artificial intelligence is going exponential. If I say that mobile data consumption is doubling every year, you just put that in a graph, you will see it's just exponential. We are not made to think exponentially. Every time we make projection, we make linear projection. We are not able to do exponential projection. But in this domain, the world is sometimes going exponential. So we need to start thinking differently. okay, what can we do as Proximus to help Belgium to get a bit of that? I mean, we try our best. I mean, we have participated a lot in Digital Belgium. Finally, our politicians and our regulator are understanding that shaping a framework where the digital economy has a place to grow is important. It will create jobs. It is a key enabler for our industry and for employment for the next year. So there is a consciousness at Belgium level, at European level, to work on that and to create a framework that is more accredited for our industry. What we do, I mean, we invest a lot in networks. I've talked to you, 1 billion a year. I mean, we invest massively in fixed network. We invest in 4G. We are already thinking at 5G. We are putting higher speed on our fixed network. We are putting fiber in the ground for enterprises. 80% of the industrial zoning are already fully connected to fibers. We put fiber for schools, for hospital, because there you need multi-TV, we will gradually bring fibers to the homes, but that's a lot of money. We push, of course, smart device. We try to do joint offers, so make them a bit more accessible for people. We work on innovation. When I talked of some of them, like smart utilities, Internet of Things, smart cities, these are key enablers of this new economy. We also partner with a lot of enterprises. A lot of enterprises can work very differently and can improve their supply chain efficiency tremendously. A stupid example, if you are a retailer and you have a cold, la chaîne du froid, say that in English, the cold chain, okay, that's easy, too easy. Cold chain, today what happens, you have a signal when your motor gets out. But then, of course, everything which is in a container, you need to throw away because it's already broken. With sensors, the motors that is not working, I mean, half an hour before its breakdown starts to vibrate. If you have sensors with real-time data and you know when it starts to vibrate, you can go there and make sure that you recuperate your fresh foods and you don't have to throw it away. A very small example, like my co-examples, but I mean, these are things that will completely change the way companies will work. They will anticipate, they don't have to do things afterwards. The same is true with facilities. If you go to airport and you have a list there, every hour a lady has gone and has cleaned the toilet or things like that. Today you can put sensors on the doors, you can count how many times the door has been open, and so you can send people when it needs to be cleaned. If nobody has come, you don't need to send a person. If a lot of people were there, you need to send a person more often. More customer satisfaction, but also much more efficient supply chain of servicing. These are all elements that are very possible for the industry and needs to be told and needs to be implemented, because if we don't implement it in Belgium, those companies will be eaten by other companies that will do that. Security, we talked about it. We are investing now 50 million euro in security of our IT, of our network. We have a security operations center where people are monitoring 500 million transactions every day for our network, but also for the network of our customer. You can never prevent hacking. I mean, people will try. The only thing you can do is monitor. As soon as you see something, make sure that you lock the door. I mean, and that requires money. It requires monitoring system. It requires people. Not a lot of company can do that, but if you have some big companies, you can do that for yourself and for your customer. Very important to protect intellectual property. Belgium has a lot of R&D. We have very good fiscal system for R&D. We need to protect it. Education, very important. Safe internet, but also I could have put the MOOCs on it. I think very important. We are not that much helping there, so I didn't put it there. But for global, I think it's amazing opportunity for the teaching. I mean, you use the classroom for interacting, for building cases, and you make people learn at home alone. Much more efficient. I mean, using the brain power of the professor in sharing with the team instead of using the brain power of the professor to teach an academic courses. I think it's much more important to do the other way, to do the reverse teaching. What did you call that? Flipped teaching, okay. Mobile identity, I mean, I'm finished now because it's late, but mobile identity. We were the first country in the world to have ID cards with a chip in it. Amazing thing forwards. I mean, from Europe, we were the only one. We are not the first one to have the same unique ID on the internet. If you do tax on web, you have different passwords than if you want tomorrow to go to the government. Why don't we have one identity on the web that you can use in all your interaction, which is secured, which is identified? We can help there. We have some projects there together with banks to create that and to make the mobile digital identity live. So that's it for me. I mean, we still have some time for questions. I think that's what I say. Digital is exponential. We still think linear. So we need to change the way we think. Digital is a must-seize opportunity. We have seen Europe, Belgium, we are lacking behind. We need to change the way we think. We need to change regulation. We need to change the way we look at digital because it will not stop. It will come. Either we are part of it, either we are not part of it. And I think it's better that we are part of it. We are making progress. Belgium has a plan to become one of the top 3 in the digital economy in Europe. Today we are number 5. We're not that bad. But we are number 5 because we are very good in infrastructure. That pushes a lot at the forefront. But we are lacking behind a lot in services. E-government, not a lot, except tax on web. And we are trying modestly to play a role in all there, to provide some cybersecurity experience, to provide some new technology experience, to provide great networks. That's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dominique. You have to sit here now.
Yes,
Can we switch on the lights, maybe? Okay. So the goal now is to give you the floor, but you need a mic in order to speak because this is recorded. So without the mic, you cannot be recorded. So I will ask you to shake your hands and then wait for the mic. And when you have the mic, just introduce yourself, a few words, and ask the question. Just wanted to make one short remark. Dominique says that we think linear, but it's an anniversary this year. It's 50 years that the Moore's law has been edicted. So I don't know if you know the Moore's law, but it's the law that empirically predicts the evolution of the capacity of the hard disk, the number of transistors you can integrate on a chip. So it's 50 years that we teach this to our students. So I hope that after 50 years they think exponentially. But okay, it seems that not all of them think exponentially. And just numbers to say it's a long time that people say that we become mobile. And we make a survey with our students. You maybe know that at ULB, 60% of our students have smartphones. More than 90% have portable PCs. But 95% of our students are studying on paper, even now. So it means that paper is still used by our students, and they don't study mobile. When they study, they are fixed. Maybe with the portable PC, but they study not in the tram, not in the bus, not in the train. We deliver for them low quality images or videos in order to be able to watch this on their smartphones or on their tablet, but they don't use it. In fact, they use their computer when they use electronic devices. So the world is mobile, but the students at ULB are not, that's for sure. And the other point that everybody with an age of 40, 50 thinks that our students are genius in terms of numerical apps. They are not. They use the most simple application that you can find, and they don't know how to use it professionally. So it means the Y generation or the Z generation, I don't know, doesn't use the apps that's given to them efficiently. So we maybe can teach them to use it more efficiently, and it's one of our goals, to use these tools to make them mobile and to make them more efficient in using the numerical applications. But now I will give the mic to the first question. Please maybe introduce yourself if you are a professor in numerics. Maybe.
I'm certainly not a professor. I work in digital marketing. Thank you for the really nice presentation. It's nice to see that some companies invest in digital in Belgium. What really struck me in your presentation was that as Proximus, you're really investing in being a tech enabler, so building infrastructure. What you also see in the digital world and in the telcos especially is that there's also a convergence to being like a content provider. I haven't heard anything about that in your speech. Is that something you're not focusing on, or yeah, is there a reason for that?
No, my speech was not on Proximus, it was on the digital economy, so that's why I didn't talk a lot about what we are doing. For content, we see ourselves as an aggregator of content. What I think we need to do is give access to our customers in the most easy way about all the content that exists. And there is a lot of nice content that exists, so I don't think we need to produce content ourselves. We sometimes put some money in co-production of Belgian production, but for the rest, I think the challenge is how can we help our consumer to consume media in an easy way. So that's why we were one of the first to have what we call TV everywhere, so being able through an app to look at Proximus TV on a tablet or on a smartphone. We were the first one to have, let's say, TV replay, so that you can come home, watch your TV in a linear way, but going 36 hours backwards, so that if you are locked somewhere, you can still watch your program of the day before, of the evening. So we are the only one that have Netflix, for instance, straight on the set-top box through. So these are the type of things we do. So I believe more about ease of use and accessibility than us producing content. But in that sense, we partner a lot with OTT, where still a lot of telco are not doing that. They see OTT as a big threat. I don't think you can do that. The world is moving, and you just need, if people want to look at Netflix, if you provide it or if you don't provide it, they will just find their way. So it's better to provide it to them in a way that they still consume your product.
Okay, thanks.
Hi, Gauthier Van Rossum. I used to be a student here not so long ago. I'm working in the rail sector right now, and I actually have two questions for you. You said that the European one was lacking of digital strategies. I would ask is there a common approach from different countries and different telecoms to tackle that problem, or is it a very personal matter to each country, each telecom? So that's my first question. The second question is on the threats, I would say, to Proximus and the telecom sector. You said that the smart grids and stuff like that represent an opportunity, but the smart grid, they are implementing their own fiber network in the ground. So do you see it as a threat or as an opportunity?
So on the first question, I think Europe is waking up. They have a digital agenda which is starting to move. It's the issue of Europe is that sometimes you have the person responsible for digital. They say we need to invest, we need to put infrastructure, and then you have the Margaret Vestager from competition saying, yeah, you cannot go together. So that's a lot of issue as well to solve there. On the side of the telco, as Proximus, we have taken the chairmanship of ETNO. ETNO is the European Telecom Operators Network for Europe. So in that sense, we are also trying there to federate more. I think it's important from a small operator. We can look big in Belgium, but in Europe or in the world, we are very small. And so versus the Orange and Telefonica and Deutsche Telekom, when we come with some approaches, they don't feel it as a threat because we are a small Belgian operator. So in that sense, and we have Belgium, so we are pragmatic. We try to find compromise. So instead of enhancing the differences, we are really trying to get to a common agenda between all the telco, but also together with the cable operators to see what are the key elements that we need from Europe to move the sector forward. So we are starting to act together. I don't think we are there yet, but we see things moving in the right direction. So I have a hope that we can still do a difference, and I think within fiber, within 5G, we can still probably be ahead of the curve, not like on the rest. Smart grid. What the electricity people do, you have two types of smart grid. You have the smart grid, which are the big compteur in the street. There they very often put their own fiber network. You have a lot of fiber network, but these are backbones, as we call them. So backbones are easy to place. So it's a few hundreds or thousands of kilometers of fiber that link stuff. So that's not too complex. Everybody can do that, doesn't cost a lot of money. Where it costs a lot of money is when you have to go to every single house. It's a huge amount of money, the last mile. And there as well, I mean, they are coming to us to say, how can we do the last mile together with telco operators? Because they need to go in every house, in every cellar, to link the individual grids of metering to their system. So they will link their major ones, but they will not link the home. So it's again, like in every industry, it's not all or nothing. I mean, you need to think through what is the added value that you can bring, and what is the control that the other industry wants for themselves. And you need to find ways to partner on that.
So I'm Michel Goldman. I was the CEO of the Innovative Medicines Initiative, which is this partnership between the European Commission and the Federation of Pharmaceutical Industries until recently. Now I'm back in this university to elaborate new models of innovation in healthcare. So my question will be related to health. You briefly alluded to health, mentioning prevention, but as you know, healthcare in general represents, unique opportunities. And just perhaps to give one example, for clinical trial and for the development of new therapies, Apple just demonstrated that just in one day you can recruit 10,000 patients for clinical trial that would take probably months to assemble using the classical approaches. And my question is, how do you see the evolution of the ecosystem in healthcare and the role of your companies in this system? Also knowing that Belgium is very well positioned in terms of clinical trial. I think we are #1 in Europe, so there is even locally unique opportunities there. But how do you see the interaction between your companies, companies like Apple, Microsoft, and the big pharmas? Because more and more big pharmas include all this approach in their own strategy.
It's a difficult question. We have tried to enter the healthcare sector with some innovative thinking in Belgium for the last 2-3 years, and we have decided now not to be proactive in there anymore. I'm not talking about clinical trial. I'm talking about how can we, for instance, help the mutualities, the hospitals, and all the other stakeholder of the sector to go from the current system, which is quite old-fashioned, quite expensive, to a new system which would be much more smooth and much more preventive, with some control mechanism as you have patient files available online so that you can make sure that the person is not going 3 times to a doctor or 4 times to a specialist, and that you can follow up. It's such a complex ecosystem and there is no political, or there is no will from the actor to change the system. So we have tried, to be honest, today we are sitting more on the sideline and we say, we are there, we can help you. If you get together and you have some ideas, we'll help you, but we are not leading it anymore, it's too complex. On clinical trial, that's different. There we could help because it's about apps, it's about reach, it's about reaching your customer. When I was in the Silicon Valley, I went to 23andMe. I don't know if you know this company. You just have to put some la salive, je sais pas comment on dit ça en anglais, in a tube, and they make an analysis of your DNA. They already now have a database of, I think, 900,000 people from whom they have a complete analysis of the DNA, and they send you every month or every week questionnaires about your antecedent, about how you live, what type of disease you have, what do you eat. And so a lot of research now that in the past were done through real research is first filtered through looking in there. You have a lot of pharmaceutical companies that say, I think that this disease is coming from that, either recurrent genetic disease or whatsoever. They can go through their 900,000 with big data and see if there is a correlation. So it decreases the cost of new medicine tremendously. So, I mean, we don't have the scale to do that ourselves, but that's a way where the new digital economy can do. And you know who is shareholder of this company? Google. I mean, they have 25% stake in it. They have stake in every single company that have some potential. It's an amazing, amazing company. We are already too late there. I mean, they already have their fingers in all this stuff. But this will be a big revolution for pharmaceutical industry. You will be able to do a lot of testing on big data, and you will avoid to do a lot of testing, real testing, which is very expensive, either on animals or on human beings, because you will have this filter before. So these are amazing stuff. And I think in Belgium we can do a lot, but we just need some goodwill to get there.
Hello, thank you for the presentation. My name is Julian. I'm one of the co-founders of Presto Wi-Fi, and we have this service in Europe where we rent pocket Wi-Fi devices, and we allow international travelers to use internet while in Europe, so people who come from Canada or from Asia. Right now we operate in 4 countries in Europe, in the European Union, so it's Italy, Greece, Romania, and now we're expanding in Belgium. And I would like to ask your perspective on data roaming regulation, because we're trying to compete with the American players that you also mentioned, but they have a huge market there with 350 million potential customers and operators who cover the territory without different data regulation. And in Europe, it's a pain for us to move from one country to another because we have to deal with other operators. And I would like to see your perspective on data roaming and how do you see it evolved or actually removed. Thank you.
No, I think Europe is still a patchwork, and to be honest, I think it's very frustrating that the only thing you see when you cross a border is a message on your smartphone saying you have crossed the border, now you have to pay that much for data. I mean, this is just old-fashioned. I think we should indeed, I'm not talking for my industry saying that, but I think we need to take the time to get roaming out, and I think it will come. Certainly in Europe, we'll get to roaming prices which will be very low. I think there is still a huge issue on roaming outside of Europe, where we are also extremely expensive. And I think you need to do 2 things. You need to lower the price, but you need also to make sure that people use it, because today a lot of people turn it off. When they go outside of Belgium, they just turn data itinerance off, which is a shame. I mean, if we say that the world is going mobile, that you want your customers to be connected permanently, we should make sure that they should not turn data out. So the issue is again always a profitability cost issue. If you look at the US, I mean, a mobile subscription in the US costs at least, I think on average, $80. In Europe, the mobile subscription on average costs €24. So the roaming is probably not the only area where we can do some money. So the issue is at a certain time, I think roaming should get out, but we should then also have different, a bit different prices in Europe. And that will go probably through a different set of legislation, no tax on pylon on the Walloon regions, where you have to pay tens of millions just to pay taxes on pylons, where people are screaming to get coverage. In rural area, the only thing they do is taxing pylons, towers. I mean, come on, you should have a bit of common sense. So I agree with you, Europe is tremendously complex, roaming is very old-fashioned. I still think it will take some time before it's getting out completely, but we should get there. I think it's wrong, but we should also make sure people use then data outside of their own country.
My name is Guido van Geel. I'm a finance director of a textile company. My question goes against hacking. What is the best way to protect you? Can a corporate protect itself best itself, or use companies like yours? And how secure is the cloud?
Difficult question. I think every company should first start to protect itself a bit. I mean, if you put server, you should make sure that you have a system anti-hacking. You should lock your server, you should have anti-hacking system. I think cloud is secure if you take cloud from some secured company. And I think even Azure from Microsoft or Amazon are quite secure. The only issue there is that you have the Patriotic Act, whereby the American government can get access to any data sitting on the cloud of an American company anywhere in the world. So the issue there, if you have some proprietary intellectual property that you don't want the US to have, then you probably better come to a cloud system of Proximus. What we see more and more is what we call hybrid cloud. Companies go to cloud, which are some of them on their premise, Some of them what they call private cloud, so very often then with operators like us, and some public cloud like Amazon or Azure, things like that. And you start to have system which brings all these clouds together. And so depending on the sensitivity of your data, you will put it in different type of clouds. We can never compete on price with Amazon or Microsoft. They are worldwide players, they have economies of scales, which brings them costs that we can never offer. But you put there your basic stuff. If you have some more, sensitive elements, you put them either on a private cloud hosted in European or at Proximus, or if you put them at your premises. Less and less people put them in the premises. Sometimes premises is about access, latency. The more we will put fiber, the less it will be necessary to have it. But I think we'll go to hybrid system. Cloud is secure, except for some investigations, things like that. But you, of course, need to have clouds with some right protections. So that's why a SOC, a Security Operating Center, as we have, is probably the best protection. We invest a lot in securing your cloud with firewalls, with a lot of other elements, but you also have a permanent monitoring. And there you cannot do for every company. It costs a lot of money. Then you better go to private clouds, which are hosted by some European company and then have an agreement on security. But you shouldn't do that for all of your data. I think you should really look granularly. What do you want to protect and what do you want to keep public? But
you have to repeat the question.
So the question is that as for the hacking, the data is the blood life of the company. I understand if it's hacked, the company cannot go on. But I think that you need to go to the highest level of security, and either you have the money to do it yourself. Banks are protecting very often the security themselves, but they put a lot of money behind that. If you are not of the size of having the possibility to spend it yourself, then you better come to an operator like us or like some others on the market, where you host the data on our cloud and you sign then a security system where then we monitor completely, and we have SLA, service level agreements, where we make sure that every time we see something, we go to you, we inform you, or we can do ourselves access to some very high-level IT expertise. The issue very often in hacking is that you don't have enough people with the necessary expertise to be able to stop it. It's extremely complex to have the level of expertise. So you need a certain critical mass to be able to attract those people and to keep them on board, because then the job needs to be interesting, otherwise they just run away. They can every time hire 20% more by changing company. Yeah? So if you want to become rich, do some data security or cyber data courses. You will probably improve your salary by 20%.
Pierre-Gilles Denis, I'm helping people working together, and looking at your presentation, my feeling is that on what you said, there's also a part of the spirit that you have to enter this reality. And my question would be, in your company, what are you putting in place to create this spirit, maybe in your own employees, to enter this era?
It's a good question. We have started, beginning of last year, a whole transformation plan of the company, which we called Fit for Growth, and a big part of it is about culture. It's about changing mindset, it's about opening the mindset of the people from what we call the fixed mindset to a growth mindset, making people embrace opportunity, embrace challenge, not being afraid of some failure. And so a lot is about how do people think, how do they embrace all these opportunities or threats and embrace them as an opportunity and not as a threat. And it takes time and effort. You really need culture changing program is really something that you need to really drive. Probably as a CEO, it starts from the top, always. You can never change the culture of a company if you don't start with the top. So it has been a program that we are now running for more than 1.5 years, almost 2 years, to bring this openness. We have also changed some elements in the organization. So there is culture and there is also organization. So for instance, we have put together some teams on innovation, very specifically. that are still in the business team, because putting them apart is dangerous, because then they become completely alone and they get really crazy. We keep them in the business, but they have a specific focus. They have a specific budget, they have a specific governance, they can go fast, they can try, they can spend money, and if it works, they can scale up, and if they fail, it's not an issue. It's part of what they need to do. So 2 recipes, culture and a bit of organization.
So, my name is Marco Luciano. I work as IT trainer for the European Commission, and you said before that you don't think that OTTs are a real enemy for operators. And basically, a few weeks ago, the CEO of Orange Group said that net neutrality is a threat for operators. So, what is your opinion about net neutrality and the discussion that are going on in the European Parliament and European Council right now, in this very moment? Thanks.
I think everything is a threat. It's true that OTT is a threat. The question is, do you partner with them, or do you try to see them as the enemy and not partner with them? So, but on net neutrality, I mean, to explain to the audience, net neutrality is a long debate of Europe saying that you shouldn't... and I think my understanding of net neutrality is that all operators are in favor of net neutrality. So it means that everybody can have access to the net, to the internet, without any differentiation. The only thing that we are fighting for is that as the infrastructure in Europe, the capacity of the infrastructure is too small to be able to permanently serve everyone, we still want to have the possibility to manage traffic. It's like on a motorway. Everybody can go on the motorway, but when you have too many cars, you need to manage traffic, otherwise everything is blocked. The same is true on internet. I mean, internet is like a motorway of data. And therefore, the whole debate is about how do you implement net neutrality. It's not about making people that go on the net pay for using the net. I think the users should pay for using the net. And therefore, we will have to go back to a volume-based pricing. I mean, it's like in a car. If you drive a lot, you have to put more diesel in your car, and you have to pay more than if you don't drive a lot. And I think that's the way we will solve some pricing issue. Depending on how much you consume, you will probably have to pay different prices. But we need, and so everybody can go on the net, don't need to pay to be there. Consumer needs to pay if they consume. What we still need to do is to manage traffic. I mean, if tomorrow you imagine that everybody in the youngers are using Netflix and YouTube, things like that, and you just don't have the capacity to do that, and because of that you are not able to deliver internet access for either urgency services or enterprise services or other type of services like connected cars, I mean, you need to manage that, and that's just business. So we are fighting to be able to manage our network. We know how to do that. It's our job. I mean, we have been created for that. So please let us do our job. There are a lot of debate. Google is using, or Netflix is using a lot of the capacity. Should they pay for that? To be honest, in the end, someone needs to pay, because what happens in Europe is nobody is paying, so you don't have the good infrastructure. And so in the end, nobody is happy. I mean, there is no business model that can work when you have to invest billions and you don't get a return on your investment. I mean, today the regulation makes also that on mobile you have to invest a lot, and all the networks are open and the prices are regulated. So anybody can come without any customers, use your network and bring a service to customer without having to invest anything. These are stuff that are not normal. I mean, I come from other industry, I've never seen that. I mean, I came from the fast-moving goods company, and there, if people are complaining that distributors have their own brand, it's their own issue. They have opened their own factories to produce private labels. If they have to blame someone, they just have to blame themselves. On the telco world, it's very different. I mean, a lot of people never wanted to open their networks. They built in networks with a lot of money, and the regulator said, you need to open it, because it's not because you build it that you can own it. Then it starts to be very difficult. Depending on the price, the regulated price, you can still make some money out of it or not. And if you don't make money out of it, you just don't invest. And then what happens? You have then the Plan Juncker that wants to invest 325 billion in infrastructure to replace the company, because the company are not able to invest in it. And so we come back to the state economy. fine for me. I mean, we just need to choose the model we want. Do we want a private-owned economy with a business model which is still positive, or do we want to accept that through regulation you can't get there and you just need to throw back a lot of money, state money, into the economy to get the infrastructure? It's just a choice. But today it's tricky. It's really tricky. I mean, a lot of players are not making money. Not the big ones, but the smaller ones, like the Base of these worlds or the Mobistar of this world. It's really tough.
Ladies and gentlemen, the very last question.
The very last question. So, good evening and thank you for your presentation. My name is Elias Ganjos and I work for Symantec, the largest American security company, and I get to manage the government affairs for Symantec in EMEA. I agree with most of your remarks on the security questions that were raised, but I couldn't help noticing the concern that you expressed about the role of Europe in the ICT sector and the fact that we've lost in Europe competitiveness, innovation and growth. So I was wondering if you could elaborate a bit on that and your thoughts as what's the fault? What have we in Europe done wrong? Because surely it can't be just the regulation. I understand that the telcos are heavily regulated, but on the other hand, could it be the business environment? Could it be the economic environment? Could it be also the culture within the telco that has led to this? And because it can't be that in every sector, be that mobile, security, services, software, search engines, social networks, Europe is not where it should be. Thank you.
No, I think it's true that telco has not always been on the right place, and I'm probably not a typical telco person. I come from other industry and I see more opportunities than threats, and it's very often the telco have looked at what they had to lose and not what they can win. And it's also true in my company. I fight a lot against the people saying, just let it go. I mean, it probably was worth a lot of money 10 years ago. Let it go and build the new stuff. So there is some responsibility for the industry themselves. But I think above that, the main issue of Europe is the fact that we are, as you said, that we are a very scattered continent. 28 companies. 28 companies that needs to agree to have a decision. 20 or 25 different languages, which makes the rollout of an innovation extremely complex. When you are in the Silicon Valley and you see all those bright guys, they say we conquer the world, and then you ask them, where is the world? And they say, US, Canada? And then they say, okay, then we go to England, to the United Kingdom, and we go to Australia. And the rest of Europe, they say, we just bloody don't know how to get in there. It is so complex. There are so many languages, so many different regulations, so many different obstacles. Look only at Belgium. We have 3 different regulations. We have a national one, we have a Flemish one, a Brussels one, and a Walloon one. If you want to dig a hole in the street to put a cable, you need different system to get the permits in Wallonia, in Brussels, and in Flanders. What does it cost to us? It's amazing. So there is a lot of elements which are cultural, which are fragmentation, and which are different regulation. And countries don't want to lose their power. I mean, at a certain time, European Commission tried to give BEREC, which is the European regulator, the power to build a global telco. No country wanted to let it go because they saw, I mean, network infrastructure as a strategic one. The same is true for electricity. If you see that in Belgium, we are almost facing blackout on electricity, where Europe has a lot of energy. I mean, if you would look at energy on a European scale, you would be much more efficient, and energy would cost much less money than the way we organize it. But that's Europe. I mean, it's a lot of different countries that try to preserve their autonomy. And to be honest, I'm very happy with it, because it helps. It enables us to have still a big telco company in Belgium. If it was not the case, probably we wouldn't exist anymore. So there are also some positive sides of that.
I actually would like to just add up on that. My name is Nicolas Van Zeebroek. I'm a professor here. I'm teaching digital economics, actually. I had lots of questions for you, Dominique, but I think it's going to be for another occasion in the interest of time. But I can't resist just adding a short comment to the question that was just asked, which relates to a question I had for you as well, which is the competitiveness of Europe question, especially in the digital world. I think there are at least three elements beyond the telco very specific issues that you mentioned. One clearly has to do with fragmentation of the market and regulation. That's the thing you addressed, and I think that's true in many respects in Europe. It's a tragedy. Number two is probably, and I participated in a number of roundtables at the Commission about that, trying to understand why we fail in Europe to create platforms as the GAFAs and other platforms. As a matter of fact, we do have one platform in Europe. We only have one. It's called SAP. The only thing, it's not a very new one. It's 30 or 40 years old. We used to have a second candidate. It's called Skype, and then it's turned American some years ago. Other than that, I agree with you. We are lacking platforms. And why is that? That's a difficult question. We don't lack ideas. We lack the possibility, the ability to market them beyond Europe and beyond our own borders. So I don't have the final answer to that, but it's a question that's interesting. Number three, and that was more to the point that I wanted to make, I think there is one thing that Europe missed. It's the transition, not just to the connected world or the connected economy, but the transition to the software world. We live now in a paradigm where innovation is no longer driven by hardware, but by software. And when I travel to the US and I see kids playing with computers, you see they're not just users of computers, they're trained from primary school to program computers. We've never been doing that here. And I think if you want to understand why we're lagging behind, it probably also has to do with the fact that we never integrated that software was eating the world very much, and we needed to adapt to that. This being said, I really enjoyed your talk, so thanks so much.
I asked you for a small question. Thank you. Okay, do you want to answer?
No, I don't think I need to answer. I think education is key.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at Digital Belgium, one of the clear points there is education. And we need, as from very early at school, to teach people and to give them the motivation and the willingness to look at science and to look at coding. I think in the US it's happening. I mean, every kids of 12 years old, they know how to code. I mean, the Kodo Doyo, I mean, what is it? I mean, it's something amazing. I mean, we don't have that in Europe, and it's a pity. So I think it should be part of our normal curriculum. Like MOOCs should be part of the normal curriculum of university, because it would help, it would force people to use digital media. But yeah, I agree with you.
Thank you very much. A few concluding comments, and first, so you were in a joint collaboration between the Tribune of ULB, organized, supervised by Nicolas Dassonville and his team, so thank you very much for the whole team of the Tribune and Grace and the technicians, as well from the BVS, so Asati, Liz, and Alex, who is our social media, digital branding, not geek, expert. So you see an advert for the MBA, because BVS was started for the MBA programs. Now it's for the whole school. So we do have many MBA alumni, including from cybersecurity, and MBA alumni and MBA students in the classroom. And I'd like to thank, of course, Philippe Ampli, our vice-rector and technology specialist. And Dominique, you spent a lot of time over these past 10 days, because we had an advisory board, we have this conference, and Friday she will talk to our Bachelor 2, so second-year Bachelor students, about leadership and leading changes in the digital economy. So I'm looking forward to listening to you. Thank you very much. If I understand well your speech, one of the key messages in the concluding comment is that we think too linearly, and we should be prepared. So the school, well, I know more about the school than ULB, but the school is moving, probably not fast enough, but we are going towards innovation with executive education in our MBA program. We are going towards digital and towards big data, and probably we should go faster, and we will think about it. Thank you very much for your speech.
Tribune de l'ULB. Un point de vue.
Un débat.